Hello and welcome to Warblog. Today I'm going to have a quick look at this Chochiwon delaying action, Korean War. So this is the early stages of the Korean War when the North Koreans are pushing south, and so the objective here is a delaying action. I'm not entirely convinced that the North Koreans have overwhelming numbers. The units are one stronger, obviously, 5 5s versus 4 4s, and they've got, I should say 21st or 20th. Oh well. Yeah, so there's not a huge number more of them, and to be quite honest, I've got this sort of thing from here, and all it says is what's that? Sweden 1, Germany 0. Don't mention the war. Oh yeah. Half time. Look at that. Anyway, so all I'm saying is that it says 21st Infantry, and to be quite honest, my brain is just sort of like made of cheese, and I'm assuming that's the 21st Division, not 21st Regiment. I've tried to sort of make it comparable, and what we've got here is the 3rd and the 4th Divisions. The 3rd one seems to come down here, so maybe it's the more prominent. So I've sort of given them the 3rd and a bit of the 4th. There's more units, there's more artillery, but the Americans have some artillery, and so it's a delaying action. So, I mean, I might adjust this, but obviously in this recording, I might be quite successful in the delaying action because the hills are a natural defensive feature. It's a bit odd, really, because I just really can't figure out, it's all hills. Look, I mean, there's definitely hills, but maybe they're not. Maybe these gradients aren't so steep. What I have thought about doing is adding a new terrain feature that would represent a significant height. So I'd call them heights. So these would be things that you'd put in hills that represent a height. So we could put maybe 1 or 2 in there to represent that. 1 here, and that would represent something that would be harder to move through, better defensively, and that you could move around. So for example, on here you might have a height there, although that might be going down. We don't really, that might be a low. Oh no, 100, 200. It doesn't really say. So it's not as that hilly, but it is hilly. Anyway, so what I'm sort of saying is the map doesn't really lend a lot to the sort of geography other than this road. And now I think the significance of the road is fairly relevant to the overall planning, especially here, because essentially what we've got, the thing is, if we try to follow the road round, it might take longer. If we tried to follow that way, they might be able to just sort of flank, because it would be, if they were there, for example, and we were here, if we started to follow this road round, it's only 1, 2, 3, 4, literally 5 hexes, whereas this way 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get, it would be quite easy to sort of overtake there. So although you might feel quite okay at defending along that line, the fallback might be slightly different. And as well, the other consideration is that this river is uncrossable. It's a minor river here, so it's all crossable, but once you get beyond here, so you've got to decide right at the start which troops, and we've got this unit on this side and the rest of everything else on the other side. So we're going to sort of say, well, are we going to fall back like that and then sort of fall back? We've got 2 lines to fall back along, and obviously then we can fall back along that river and then maybe sort of slide that around like that. Somehow try to use these rivers as natural features, and obviously the fall back down here goes straight down to here, and then obviously down like that. But it's sort of how do you do that in 2 halves? Now, for example, what I was sort of when I looked at this, I sort of thought, well, oh no, that's 1-0. 1 to Germany, 1 to Sweden. That's why everyone is excited. Okay. So anyway, essentially, what I'm saying is you've got to sort of think possibly earlier on about how far you're going to. I mean, what I'm trying to get to here is you can sort of think, well, we can hold there. Well, literally, we can. Because we've probably got quite good odds. They'd have to sort of get everything against one thing. But what the point I'm trying to sort of get to here is they're not necessarily just going to come in and just form a line like this and then just start attacking it. What I think the North Koreans would do is somehow form something leveraged around Chonui there, but it could be like that. And then from there, that line, so let's just reload that so we've got this line sort of clear. So what I'm sort of saying is, if we had that line, if the North Koreans formed a line like that, okay, we're going to start moving against this unit. I mean, if you actually look at the maps, they did push this way and down this way. Now, they also did this and this, and they've got armour. This is, if you look at that, that's a North Korean armoured attack. So they had armour in it here, but let's not worry too much about that. But the point is, they're coming this way, and they also come around here. It looks like they're flanked. So basically what I'm saying is you could form a line like this, and you could form your defence. But the thing is, what they might then do is just sort of come around here with a fairly large chunk. And then once you've done that, you don't even have to attack any single part of this line. They're going to have to fall back. Otherwise, as I said, it's going to be that sort of, you know, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if they can enclose that gap, you know, everything caught in this side of the river will be stuck. Then they can't move. There's no engineering units there. And so I think it's a really interesting game of sort of strategy and just sort of considering, you know, how you're going to do that. So it's not a case of being able to defend because maybe you're not so outnumbered, but it's definitely a game where you can risk being outmaneuvered, which is sort of you know, double plussed on the fact that you've got this river, so you've got to have two sides, and you know, this side looks quite good because you can fall back continuously with your flank against this river, and then you know, almost to there, it's almost perfect. And after here, you've got to sort of maybe consider how you're going to do it. Now, the thing is, you're definitely not going to want to go into this little pocket around here. That's all going to be, you know, not really something you're going to want to do because you get stuck. So from there, you might sort of think, well, from here we can go to there, and then fall back along this line, and then get up behind this river, and then somehow, basically, draw a line back like this, etc., etc. Obviously, depending on how the other side happens. But the other thing that I've considered is this artillery, because the artillery generally moves quite slow, no matter how, you know, what situation, but especially here. And again, that sort of, I would be more inclined maybe to fall back early, or at least to get the artillery, even if it's out of range, past this curve. Once the artillery's there, it can't really be outflanked. It's got geometry on its side all the way. You know, it's not as though they can make a faster route. This is a faster route down here. So, you know, I might be, but the thing is, they've got 6, so even from there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, they can still almost cover that. So I would be more inclined to push these units back as soon as possible, and then somehow to sort of, you know, fall back. But the thing is, it's a delaying action, so the whole point is to actually delay the North Koreans and sort of think, well, how best to actually do that. And you know, if it was sort of a dedicated game, you'd probably have a special set of rules to sort of, you know, sort of specify, you know, degrees of victory based on how long you can sort of, you know, stop North Koreans or delay them. You know, you could have some sort of rule. If you can do it more than 10 turns, then it's a marginal victory. If you can delay them for 20 turns, it's a major victory, or something like that. I have no idea what you could do with that. But, you know, bearing that in mind, if you were, you know, I always encourage people to sort of think, well, you know, to try and consider the justifications for victory conditions as they see fit, based on their own familiarity and knowledge with the with the war and all the surrounding things in general. For example, I was just watching some YouTube the other day of someone doing some North Korean war game. It looked quite interesting, but it just sort of lost me a little bit. But in the sense that it was so rule heavy from a top end that you sort of lost the dynamics of what the game was in moving little counters around. It wasn't to be honest, it was quite good, but in there seemed to be a massive focus on sort of intervention. And so, and I've read some books on the Korean War, and there's little down there on intervention. I mean, MacArthur, he was basically just saying to Washington, we just want more troops, and it was really down to money. You know, they didn't have any troops, and the troops that they did have wanted to stay in Europe. You know, there was a lot of emphasis on, you know, wanting to stay in Europe because that's where the Third World War was going to happen, not North Korea. North Korea was a bluff. You know, North Korea was to sort of divert their attention, and then they would strike in. That's what they thought, and so that was what. So those are some of the limiting factors. I'm not saying that sort of the way that the game worked sort of differed, but what I'm saying is you might think that, well, okay, well, there are other elements to this. For example, you could sort of say that I don't know. I mean, what I'm trying to say is you've got to sort of build in your own paradigm of success and the actual objectives that are at hand, which might not necessarily be simply a case of delaying them for a certain number of turns. For example, it might be to delay them without getting a certain number of casualties, because, you know, if the I mean, in the early days of the war, I mean, I'm still at the early days on my book, so that's what I sort of know, really. I don't really know much beyond the early days. But MacArthur was sort of complaining that the reinforcements were not outpacing the losses, so they were losing, say, 1,000 men a week, but they were only getting 200 men a week. So they were getting reinforcements, and it wasn't enough. So it could be that you might want to sort of, put in rules to reflect that the actual will and the perceptions of losses moreover than other things. But all I'm saying is the objectives really should be sort of defined by yourself. But I think it's in its own right, as a lot of all of these games, they all sort of take a step out of the box to some extent, in that you can almost play them in a sort of non-partisan way. It's the red counters versus the blue ones. These are the numbers you've got, and these are your objectives, and just play it from a sort of almost what I call a checkers perspective. As a sort of just a standard game as games work. So anyway, I'm going to now have a little blast on this. So North Korea goes first. Now, as I've said, I sort of want to position myself first, and to be quite honest, I don't think I've really got any choice on that. But we've got a lot of armour, so let's just see where the armour can get. So it's 2.5, so we'll probably get to get one more, and that'll give him 1. So the armour's not doing too well going through the hills. Okay, well, we can get all that down there. So again, roads are good for movement through these hills, so they become very significant. But I think this 4th Division element here is going to move a lot slower. Because I want to move them this way, and it's pretty much going to be it, isn't it? They can't go any further than that. I'm sort of doing that deliberately, because even if I take a couple of turns, how much is that? 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, I'm going to just move them there. So I'm going to try the flank. And try some artillery. Okay, so he's fairly heavily hit. So that's the end of the North Korean turn. And again, it is a game of delay. So how best to do that? Now, the thing is, what I've done here is I've copied this map. But you'll see the front line is to the east of this town. And the river, sort of, you can't really see it, but it actually sort of goes through the town. So to be quite honest, I did put it on both, but when you actually overlay the counter, it sort of goes a bit funny, and so it's just the way the hexes work. But it should really be more that way. I could maybe change it, but it's definitely sort of there. That's where the town is. But anyway, so it goes through the town. But what I'm saying is, what I'm sort of trying to get to here is a delaying action, and I would be inclined, I am inclined, to move these units into the town. Now they're going to be pushed out, but the thing is, it might be expensive for the North Koreans to do that. So we'll see. We'll see how expensive it is. But I'm not sure whether I want to do that. It's tempting. You know, to sort of maybe. What I'm saying is, when I looked at this map, is to push forward on that. So there's the river, to push forward from there to that river line. I mean, why wasn't there a position on that river line to push here into the town and the river line, and to take in a more advanced position to take that initial assault and that initial punch, delaying that against, because it's not as though I'm moving forward one hex to gain a hex. I'm moving forward to a very clear defensive line, or at least behind this river, being in the town as well. Now they'll probably be able to get into that town. There's probably nothing we can do about that, but I sort of just don't know what I want to do. That's all artillery. So I've got quite a bit of artillery. Now again, I don't want to get it stuck, but I think we've got enough warning. I mean, once they get to there, we'll have to sort of do something, but let's just see how far they can move along here. 1.5. I'm going to start moving along this road. And let's just see how much damage we can do against this. It can only get the first 4 anyway. So 0.15. So we're getting a few hits in there, but not a lot. Hello, that was a lot. 2.1, 1.8, 0.5. So that's the way to sort of do that. I'm going to move into here. That's encouraged me a little. I also want to move into there, and I also want to move against this river line. But I also want to move these guys back. I want to start that defensive line somehow further back, and I don't know how I want to do that. So these are obviously on the other side of the river, so I'm going to move him back here. So we've got a secondary line there, and these are basically going to delay these units and stop that outflank. Now they'll probably be able to move into there, but we've got this. Pity this is a zone of control, so otherwise we'll be able to move into there, and we don't have movement to move into there. Okay. Right. So here, the North Koreans can now start pushing in earnest. I think the first thing they're going to want to do is make sure that they have control over this town. We're not going to be able to move them out of that. Get our forward move there, and I think a prep assault here. Okay, so what's that leaving them on? 6.5, 3.7. Okay. Now I can never really... Well, what are they going to be on? They're going to be on 8. What's that? Times 3 for the hills. So that's 1624, doubled for the town. It's about 50. I mean, we're just going to have to see what happens with everything. They are almost halved because of their depressions, but because I don't really want to do the extra thinking now, the only thing to say is because of my crappy interface I can't get these last 2 tank units in there. Like, oh well, that's the thing. I do want to put rules in about stacking, because I even this, well, it just doesn't look right. You know, we should only be able to push in, you know, a certain stacking limit. I've got some ideas for it, but I haven't done it yet. Well, I will do it at some point. It's just I don't want to do things that limit what people can do. That's the thing that I really don't want to do. I don't want people saying, "Why can't I move this unit?" Because you're overstacked. What's that? How does stacking? You know, it's just, you know, if you want to play, I don't even think that's an advanced rule, but I think it's less intuitive for, you know, the simplicity that I'm trying to achieve. But let's attack. 7-1. 110. Yeah. It wasn't actually that much over the top. You know, I mean, 13 times 7 is 70, 80, 94. You know, I only had about 16 units, 16 more than, you know, than the 7-1. So that was pretty spot on, really. But we've eliminated 1. So pushing forward, that's the thing. You see, was that worthwhile? They were both eliminated. I'm gonna have to look that up, because I'm not sure why it's only saying 1 when they were both eliminated. But the thing is, the elimination rules, I think it makes sense, because when they get a DE, they should be eliminated. There's like already, I think it's a 30% chance of them being eliminated. I can't remember exactly what it is. Maybe it's only a 10% chance, I think, of them being eliminated, but it's factored in. So that other one, you know, so this one would have had a plus 65% chance, plus his whatever, so he would have been like a 95% chance of being eliminated on that elimination result. And similarly himself, this one would have been a 67% chance, 77% chance. So, you know, that makes sense. It's just it doesn't come up with 2 in the result, it just shows the 1. So I'll have to look into that. It's a little fix. But has it slowed them down? I don't think so. But he's got movement. Okay. Well, I'm probably going to send them all back into that hex there, but just for the sake of some kind of balance. Now, do I want to attack across this very small stream? Probably not. Let me reload and then just manually check whether there's anything in this stack. He's got 4 movement. Let's just manually do that. Yeah, I moved him. So 1, 1, 1. You can't see that, can you? But it doesn't matter. 1. They've all got 1 movement because they were involved in the attack, which is not, or is it? I think it might be actually, because if it only takes them 1. Yeah, look at that. He's got no more movement. I'm not going to risk that. Okay, so that's the end of their turn. Right, so they lost 2 units, which now puts them at a distinct disadvantage. It's not really the word I was looking for, but they are now, they had a little bit of an advantage in that they weren't wholly outnumbered. Now, what I might have, or should have done there really is to not split them up into two lots. And now here, I think, to be quite honest, whatever happens, these units could very possibly be at risk. Now here, this stack is probably going to just come across the river. But I could move him 1, 2, 3 into there. The thing is, I've got a choice here, and I think I've made the wrong opening moves, to be quite honest. I shouldn't have split them up, really. I sort of thought that it might take a bit of this, a bit of that. The problem is, I think, is that there's too much in this stack. He can walk around like Godzilla, crushing everything in his path. And I sort of think that I should really put in some stacking limitations, but then again, the stacking limitations would just sort of but they would make it even harder. That's what I'm trying to get to. Because you sort of need the odds. I mean, these hills are just so defendable. You need to get large stacks, but what I think I might do, and again it's not very intuitive, but is sort of make it so that after the sort of 10th unit, the other units are added at half value. But then again, you wouldn't know which ones are which. I don't know how to do it, but it seems to me that with this stack walking around like Godzilla, there's nothing that can stop it. The thing is, I sort of want to block this river line, so I'm going to do that. And move this artillery down here a bit. Can he fire there? Yes. This is where we stand to do a bit of damage with this constant artillery barrage. So we've routed one of their units already. I don't think that can be underestimated in its sort of potential. What I want to do, see, I'm doubling back and making a mess of it, but I want to pull forward to that line again. Not a lot of hope here, but let's get some attrition going on. nothing. Okay. So, crossing this river. This is sort of what... This is an interesting paradigm here, because that river goes all the way along here. Now, North Koreans don't have to be in a rush. Now the question is, how do we want to cross this river? No depressions, no depressions. So what we could do is try and attack there. Speed 1.5. I'm going back on that. A lot of this can engage in the attack, but not so much from here. Let's just tentatively try an attrition. Or should we just try an attack? Back to game. No, I want to go against this stack that I at least attacked here. I want to get all of that in. I'm going to leave him so that he can move into that hex if we win it. Remember, this armour gets a bonus against infantry, but it's all sort of like quartered because it's going across a river. So I don't know what his odds are going to be. Let's see. Well, that was good. 95 versus 7.2 DE, but that pushed him back to there. So we should have that one unit in there somewhere. The armour can go across. I would rather find that infantry unit. There he is. Bingo. Now here, I sort of want to be a bit clever, if that's possible. Pushing this way. I'm going to put everything down here apart from one unit, which I'm going to leave there, like that. And let's do an attrition across this river. Just get a flavour for how strong that attack would be. So that would have been a 3-to-1. I did 2 damage against it, but that's not terrible odds. I can't remember what the thing is of this river, but you know, if that 3-to-1 would have been a good. So next time I'll just do the attack. And what I'm trying to do here is to sort of outflank or threaten the outflank and threaten him to spread it, weaken his line. So again, another turn, and the thing is they're delaying the action, but the thing is you've got to say at what cost. And I don't have any sort of track here to define, you know, the losses, but I'm at least able, in a small degree, to start moving my artillery in the way that I want to, away, just to stop that from being, you know, cornered in there. But I think we're going to have to start dividing this line and falling back to cover that. fairly soon. Now, the thing that's going to cause the North Koreans losses are their own assault failures, which are going to cause exchanges, plus the continued artillery. And the thing is, their artillery is much bigger. It's 6-1, whereas ours is 2-1, but we seem to be doing fairly well with it. And they don't really seem to be doing very well at all. So maybe their artillery is rusty or something. But that's that. So, do the Americans now see what I sort of... We've lost the advantage on all regards now. I mean, they're across the river. So now it's just those two hexes are just straight into another hilly hill. There's no rivers or town defense, city defences. Here they've still got to get across this river, but there's a bridge, which is going to make it a little easier. And plus, it's their Godzilla stack, so that hex is simply not going to hold. So I think the thing now to do, and maybe it's sort of moving into, well, it's a bit late to do this now, is to start pushing back. But what I think I might do with that is push back like this. Now it gives me a line hooked onto there. Push into there, push into there, into there, and let's. So we've divided our force clearly. Now they can still choose which way they go, but we've got our line here and our line there, obviously with our artillery able to support both moving along this road at a steady rate. I wonder what the sign is for artillery coverage. So that's again a delaying action, and it's an interesting game really. Although there's another one that is also delaying action, and it's the same time period, just I think a few days earlier. And but there's not a lot of games where it's clearly a delaying action, and it makes for a different gameplay, I think. To define sort of how you can be successful. But I think on the other one we had a very good defensive line across the river, and once that broke, the North Koreans were able to sort of pick things off piecemeal. But this artillery, I think, it can play a real sort of role in changing the momentum. Because if we can actually start to, we've already routed one of these units, and we just keep pummeling that, they really don't have a lot of time. They've got to really sort of do something, and then they've got to try and get this artillery as quickly as possible. And they can't do that because they don't have the sort of mobility to just sort of outflank or to do this. The only way they can really do it is to bring the artillery so close up that it's in that stack, for example, and start doing counter artillery, and they might have to do that. Windows Defender, that's a Microsoft product, is it? Microsoft, the people that sort of update your system and then nothing works anymore. Sort of like I was thinking about it earlier. I can't think of how to put it into the words that my thoughts put it into, but Microsoft updating computers all around the world in real time, except for mine. When it updates my computer, the audio just goes pear-shaped. I'm sure they did it on purpose. I'm sure they thought this guy's having too much fun with his YouTube channel. Let's interfere with his audio. And let's see how rubbish it looks. I don't know, I don't care. But it's frustrating because I had it, just getting it all sorted, and then it just suddenly updated itself. Bizarre. Anyway, I'm happy with that. I'm not going to play it any further because it's 40 minutes, and no one watches my videos. They're more than a couple of minutes. But I think that should give you a flavour of what's happening, and obviously the question is how long can you delay it, and can you actually stop them getting there? I mean, the thing is, because there's no definite time limit, you can't say you can stop them, but you could actually sort of get yourself into an impasse where they can no longer attack your defensive lines because they've lost the numbers, and that's going to come down to, again, the number of exchanges that they receive or experience, and the amount of damage that this artillery can do. And the artillery in the other delaying action game, the artillery, I didn't put any artillery in. I said, well, it would be nice to put some artillery, and I did put some artillery afterwards, just because I sort of thought, well, that would actually change it a little. But I don't think it really changes it sort of drastically or massively. But what the significant thing that it does do is it means that the North Koreans are up against they're up against a time limit, and that time limit is defined by the amount of artillery that these artillery units can sort of pour on top of them. They can only afford, every turn it's like, they're going to receive a certain degree of attrition, and that's going to build up, and so that's going to be an interesting factor. And if you look at the map, there's a long way to go, and it's quite unlikely that they're actually going to catch up with this artillery. So essentially, I think it's got to be this counter battery fire. You've got to do it, maybe even do it straight from the start, because I mean the thing is, we've used them 3 times so far, and on each time I think we hit one unit here, and we hit the unit here, and possibly another one when it was in there earlier on that moved ahead. But on all of those artillery strikes, they were not critical to the outcome of the battle. It's not as though we needed to just win them down. We've got such massive forces, I think we can leave that and then dedicate these to chasing this artillery battery around with counter battery fire. So that would be an interesting way of doing it. I'd like to play it again, just sort of focusing on that. I think if I played it again, I wouldn't split the forces up. I did it because I sort of thought, well, these ones can be, hold up the line here, but it doesn't really work like that. And then I brought them back. I'm not sure whether I would take out this town straight off. It doesn't really feel as though I delayed anything. And further, when they had already taken depressions, they weren't brand new units. I mean, one of them was already at 3 depressions, I think, or 4, and so they were actually quite vulnerable in there. But anyway, yeah. So that's it. I'm going to upload it. I hope you enjoyed that. And there's a long way to go to Chochiwon. Fantastic. So I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.